Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Nina Kauser Show. I've never been a fan of these late kickoffs on a Monday. My word, what a way to have your week completely ruined, you know. Liverpool there getting their pants pulled down by Manchester United, who've already had their pants pulled down twice in the league, but here we are, the final full-time result, Manchester United 2 and a toothless Liverpool 1. There is so much to say about this, and I can't say it all, and I am actually honoured that I have Justin with me. Justin, welcome.
I'm usually able to find silver linings in anything as far as, performances go. There's nothing here. This was front to back terrible. Worst game I've seen us play in a really long time. Not particularly happy with the individual performances, not particularly happy with how our system operated, not particularly happy with the urgency the manager used in managing the game, not particularly the fact that I couldn't even celebrate a solid goal because of the fact that it felt like consolation, right? If we'd scored another one and gotten ourselves a point out of that, a draw that feels like a win at Old Trafford is not something that I'm used to in this particular generation of either Liverpool or Manchester United. So the best possible outcome in that last 15 minutes was still pretty shit. Just all really, really terrible and bad performances all around.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of a lot of our subscribers and listeners are interactive on Discord right now, and I've just read one and it kind of made me laugh. It's by Ramiz Akhtar, and he's just basically wrote, "Would have been better if there was a protest today and we got the game called off." Yes, I agree. I would like those 3 points. Oh gosh. Yeah, we'll talk about that. And you know what? In a nutshell, Justin, you do not sound happy, and we'll get into the nooks and crannies of everything what you've kind of just highlighted there. I think a lot of people are feeling the same. But we do have a fair few callers today. And I know it's late, so I kind of want to give them their airtime first. So making his return back on the Nina Kauser Show, it is our regular, Kieran. Kieran, welcome back to the Nina Kauser Show. You know the drill. You know what to do. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed.
No, it's a pleasure having you on, Kieran. We missed you last week, but feel free to say whatever you need to say right now. Go for it.
What can you say? It was an abomination of a performance. I think. I know you always talk about the lineup first, but once I seen that midfield, I was worried straight away. I just knew that this could be a bad night, and so it proved. I just thought it was a shambolic display all round, and I think, it fucking breaks my heart to say this, but you have to say that lot deserved to win the game on the night. It was just, from us, it was just a bad night, and we have to get our act together sooner or later, because 2 points from a possible 9 is just simply not good enough, especially where we aim to be, especially what we're aiming for. So like you said before, I think there's a lot of work to be done behind the scenes, and this needs to change very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely horrendous. And you're absolutely pretty much feeling what we're feeling there, Kieran. We will get into the lineup and obviously our feelings when we saw it, and just how maybe we were all kind of proven correct. But Kieran, thank you so much for your call. Justin, No, it's thank you for kicking things off on the Nina Kauser Show. Justin, I mean, there's plenty to talk about. We've got a couple more callers, but I guess we've got to kind of touch the point there, what Kieran just alluded to there. Starting lineup and the bench. I'm looking there and I'm like, Don't look good. Don't look good. You know, I think the biggest one was probably Fab being on the bench. And that midfield, I think that's what was maybe the red flags for so many people. But yours, go ahead.
You can't play a midfield of Henderson and Milner from the start of a game. In particular at Old Trafford, it's a bigger pitch. I don't care about how bad Manchester United are. I was more clear about the fact that maybe we could beat them before the game. But you know what I also remembered? Milner and Henderson give you a total lack of ability. Milner is a decent tactical and technical football player. Not great, but decent. Henderson is not a particularly good technical footballer outside simply his ability to pass and recycle possession, which he did very poorly today. And Milner playing the left side of the midfield
should not be starting. Justin, can we agree that he should not be starting?
He should not be starting.
And given the fact that he played last Monday.
James Milner is a guy who should be playing in 30-minute increments here. He's a squad player. Yes, you occasionally have to use your squad players as starters, but you have Fabinho, who's at least fit enough to play the last half hour. Start with him. You have, I guess, Naby Keita's Liverpool career kind of hangs in the balance there because apparently they're going to, who knows if he plays for us again. I have no idea. But at some point, you can't just do that. It's too immobile, too flexible. And there's another thing about Milner playing that left-sided role. The left-sided role is the role where, people think of the sidedness too much. In reality, it's the tactical role. The right-sided role is the one who's responsible for creating attacking impetus and creating that the right-sided triangle with Trent and Mo. And Bailey does that really well. The left-sided role is the one that's tasked to actually be controlling. And a lot of that movement can be side to side. If you look at Thiago, Ginny, and Naby, not every piece of running they do is just in straight lines. Milner just kind of runs in straight lines ahead. So he destroys the balance of how your left side works, right? Robertson and Diaz have looked like they've been on the stage much this season, and I think it's just because of the fact that whoever's been playing the left-sided midfield hasn't worked well with that, right? It was Thiago for 50 minutes, and then he hurt himself, and then it was Milner for basically almost 2 full games, and that's going to hurt that. Basically, right now, our entire attack is get the ball to Mo, get the ball to Diaz, and her hope magic. That's not a good recipe. We need more coherence. Part of the coherence is actually the ones we have available, but I haven't talked about the transfer market, in positions that actually suit their skill sets and make you actually cohesive when you're playing. Klopp has gotten that wrong so far this season. Will he get it right and fix it, and can we go on a run? Absolutely. But nobody wants to hear that right now. Nobody wants to hear about us going on a run right now. They just want to see him get it right for our next game against Bournemouth, right? And you can't go through the period because they're usually figures within the club. At the same time, you can't start them together, and if they're not going to play well, they need to be sitting on the bench because you have to actually deal with what you have in total merit. I mean, if you want to talk about the worst moment of the match, Jordan Henderson passed the ball directly into Marcus Rashford's path. It was a gorgeous assist. It was his second best assist. He had an assist like that last season too. The thing is, you're supposed to be passing it towards the other team's goal.
Yeah, it was absolutely horrendous. And you spoke about, Elliot there, and I'm not being funny. You look at teams like Man City, you look at teams like Chelsea. All right, they probably didn't have the best results, but when they bring on these young midfielders, they're there to kind of, get a little bit of an experience and kind of things. Elliot pretty much carried that midfield today. That's not right. It's not right.
I mean, sometimes the best thing you can have in midfield is energy.
Yeah, I agree. And he brought that in the Bundesliga. He was the only one that was maybe trying to do something a little creative in that midfield. I mean, we'll talk about everything and we will talk about the performance. But Justin, I'm just going to hold you there for a second because we do have a second caller and I'll bring them in, see what they have to say as well. Because I think a lot of people just want to let off some steam. So I'm going to bring on our second caller now. JC Tyrone, welcome to the Nina Kauser Show.
Hi, Nina. Can you hear me?
Hi,
okay?
Yeah. Well, football aside, I'm grand, but yeah, and I think we're all like that. So you know what? The drill. Take it away. Just it's like a group therapy session. Just say whatever you need to say.
Oh, I know. Me and Justin do group therapy in Discord pretty regularly, but I think this performance just put a few full stops on a few things. I mean, Bobby, I don't think is a viable option for us up front.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just the Henderson Milner it just can't happen anymore. When a lot of people have been screaming out for a midfield, a new midfielder of some sort. You know, we've got this huge void in between our young kids and our older midfielders, and it's not being filled. And it's, you know, hopefully something happens before the end of the window. But what's happening at Liverpool right now is not viable. It's not. You know, we were supposed to be going for a title challenge, and now we're starting to think is top four. I know Chelsea lost at the weekend, but are we going to do a run of games together now to stay in contention? It's just so frustrating to see this happening and everyone knowing it's happening, and then to watch it week in and week out now. It's just a serious problem. I'm just not happy. So. You can take it away from there, guys.
No, thank you so much for your call. And, you know, again, you've highlighted another problem there. I mean, we've kind of spoken about the midfield. I'm sure it'll be a running theme throughout the show. But Justin, I'm going to come to you there because I think JC Tyrone kind of mentioned Roberto Firmino there. And we've always been fans. I think so many Liverpool supporters have been fans of Roberto Firmino. But for me today, I mean, I know he's just come back from being out for a little injury or whatever. But I thought he really struggled today. I thought we made it so easy for Martinez and Varane because there was nobody there occupying that space. I thought they had it quite easy, certainly in like the first half where there was just nobody there. You know, Bobby was sort of chipping into the midfield. Because again, we were losing it there. And, you know, even like when I look at the corner that we had in the first half, and, you know, between Martinez and Bruno, they almost scored an own goal where, you know, like they were kind of like, there was a lapse of concentration between them. And Bobby was just so slow to react in that situation. And then they kept panning the camera to Nunez. And I was just like, you know, if you were there, you know, like the fox in the box, that kind of player, I just don't think he's it. And I think that's what we need and what we certainly need in that area. I felt like he was too deep today. And I don't think he had a good game. He had a few piss-poor, miscontrolled balls in the penalty box in the second half as well that I kind of noticed. I just felt like he wasn't it. And I felt like he was just trying to lay off the ball. It was almost like a lack of assurance in himself or confidence to kind of take a shot. And if it was not great.
Not great is underselling it.
I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, I love Bobby. I love the guy. Give me some of the greatest days and moments of my sporting life. On the other hand, you know, time comes for everybody, and he put in a lot. He put in a lot of running. That will kill your legs. He just doesn't look like he has the quickness to do this. But also, I think at the same time, some of the reason he's suffering is tactical. A false nine where you have up the gut playing with you, Henderson and Milner. None of those three guys really advance the ball or really quick on, you know, really quick with it at this point. You're just going to run into the teeth of a defense every single time. There's no spacing there. That's a broken passing network where you're giving yourself nothing to do. Ideally, you have, you know, Firmino pulling set the center back so that you can have Diaz or Salah running in behind, but
which is what he used to do. Bobby Firmino used to do that.
Yeah, he did. But at the same time, also our midfielders would cover a bit more ground. And quite frankly, Gini Wijnaldum is a significantly more technically gifted midfielder than any of the guys that we can put out on the left side right now until either we decide on playing, you know, Naby Keita, which I don't think is going to happen, or Thiago comes back. So there needs to be a solution, and that solution might need, you know, it has to come soon because otherwise, you either play Fabio Carvalho, where we looked a lot better when he came onto the pitch today, until Jota and Darwin are back. Like, that's the one I'm least concerned about because we have an answer there. It's just the question is whether or not those answers get back in time for us to not have completely and totally put ourselves, like, you know, much further behind and burying ourselves than we have, right? We haven't fully buried ourselves, but we're making it really early, very quick. I mean, really late, very quick. You can't bury yourself like that. And we're doing it. But I think the bigger issue is, again, it's all tactical. you have a lot of guys who look slow up the middle of the pitch and who also aren't great technically. Like, it's fairly simple to me. It's having a splinter effect on the entire team.
Yeah, I feel like that's very costly because again they were kind of talking about, and I think Tyrone JC Tyrone was kind of mentioning that the midfield was an absolute shambles as well, and everything is quite problematic. But there was a lot of emphasis on where I watched the game, which was Sky Sports here in the UK, and I think in England, and I think that's where most people watched it here, and there was just massive emphasis on our defence for the goal and such things, and I just felt like they, like you said, like the holding thing of everything is the midfield. And obviously we'll get into that in a minute. And of course, if your attackers are really, really dropping deep to trying to get the ball, there's something fundamentally wrong. It basically means there's no creative output. There's no supply to them and they have to go and find their own supply, which, is something that you kind of don't want. And I was actually watching Match of the Day 2 last night and, they had Jermaine Defoe on and sharing the role of strikers and like how it's great to have a number 9, the stereotypical number 9 back again. And Jermaine and they were talking about Haaland's touches against Bournemouth that he's still got an assist, and Defoe was kind of speaking about the fact that every time he tried getting more touches or he wanted to chip in with the midfielders, they'd send him away. Like, go away, you will take care of this. We'll get you the ball. We'll get you the supply. You stay where you need to. And that doesn't quite happen in Liverpool because, and I actually thought about his points and I was thinking, look at Roberto Firmino here. He's such a unique player that he's done it a lot. And maybe in the past that is something that we've really, really praised him. But when you're in that situation, it was absolutely frustrating. The fact that there was absolutely no supply, no creativity from the midfield. JC Tyrone, thank you so much for your call. Really, really appreciated your input and your insight there. Thank you so much.
No problem, Gina or Nina. Just want to say the vibes is really bad in that team too. I don't. Everyone else noticed it, but it's just a bad vibe seems to be flowing through the team.
Yes, we're going to get into that as well because obviously, the harmony did not look great. Thank you so much, JC Tyrone. Nope, it's an absolute pleasure. Right, you know what? Because it is late, we're going to go to our third caller. I don't think anyone else is calling. If anyone wants to call in, guys, on Discord, feel free to drop us a message and we'll get you on. If he's still online, let me see if he's still on. Yes, he is. Let's bring on our third caller, Sandeep. Welcome to the show. Okay, we seem to be having some technical issues with Sandeep and his mic. We'll see if we can figure that out or sort that out. Justin, let's carry on talking. Again, Tyrone kind of mentioned there.
Let's talk about the vibes.
Yeah, let's talk about the vibes, because one thing that you always have to say is that this team looks very united, looks very, together. And there was a lot of shouting and screaming in, people's faces. Like, for example, James Milner absolutely screaming at Virgil van Dijk that you should have gone for that ball, you should have cleared that ball. And Virgil van Dijk actually, and he was screaming in his face, and I actually have to give a lot of credit to Virgil van Dijk in that instance where he didn't kind of retaliate or scream back. And then there was instances where you saw Milner screaming at Henderson and vice versa. There was just a lot of a blame game.
It's you know what it is? You could handle it if it was a captain or a leader yelling at one of the younger players to do things, because you expect that, right? You expect that that's how you keep younger players kind of in tune to the intensity of the game. But when it's Milner and Van Dijk going at each other, or Milner and Henderson going at each other, something seems really off, because those are 3 solid professional leaders who have been in the same dressing room for years, know how to deal with each other, get along, do all of these things to get, have been in the same setup for a long time. All have the trust of the manager. All are part of the leadership of the team. And if they're going at each other, it just looks ugly. I expect that'll get put to bed pretty quickly, because one of the things that's never really festered in this squad has been these kind of interpersonal rivalries. That said, and I think a thing to watch out for, and I don't want to try to get too fatalistic about this, is oftentimes when teams hit the end of a run, this might be the kind of thing that happens, right? So you have to hope that that's not it, and we just got to hope that it's the teething pains and growing pains of a bad start to a season that still to me holds quite a bit of promise. But it's not a particularly good look. You want to see that get nipped in the bud quickly. I suspect Klopp will nip this in the bud pretty quickly. And it's tough for me to think that this team is going to go from incredibly united and deeply happy, the deeply happy side and, cohesive side that you saw go as far as they did last season, and also, look as cohesive and, enjoyed their football as much as they did at the community shield. I don't think that's going to disappear this quickly. I just think that they recognize there's a lot of pressure on them from their support to win. Sometimes it takes a performance like this to pull you down a peg so that you actually know what you have to do to win.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting as well, Justin, like this is probably the worst start that these set of players have had collectively together under Jurgen Klopp and in this Liverpool team. And again, it's a different kind of pressure. It's a different kind of maybe a response that is required, and maybe they've not found themselves in that situation. So again, a lot of questions are being asked internally of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, these are guys who have been serial winners for the last 5 seasons, right? Have they won as much as some of the supporters would like them to? No, but they're still winners. They've won a lot of things. They've won every single possible piece of silverware in the last 5 years. So, it's not like all of a sudden these guys have forgotten what they've accomplished together. It's just every so often shit happens. If you go to a job, you have friends who you have from work, but they're going to piss you off sometimes. You're going to get into it. You have your family. You're going to get into shit with your family. It happens. It's just, being close to someone, familiarity breeds contempt, I believe is the cliche we're looking for here. And you just have to hope it doesn't fester, because squad disharmony would be exceptionally bad for us, considering how much we play on emotion and intensity.
No, but I completely agree. That is another thing that we don't want, because, but we will be under the microscope with the media and such things. It's not going to be great. So yeah, I hope we manage to nip that in the bud quickly. And I think the only way we're going to do that is we get like a win under our belt, which is absolutely crucial. But today, Justin, it was not great. And United, can we just say it before we kind of get into the game, and where they kind of hurt us a lot? As bad as they were, they actually deserve to win. I think
they deserve to win. I agree. They were better than us. They deserve to win, but we were architects of our own demise here. Like, if I'm that Manchester United side, I'm probably confident because we just beat a team that's owned us recent history. But they weren't good. They're still not good. Like, we're still significantly better than them. We just played like shit with having a ton of injuries and a bad feeling about us. And that's the part that sucks. You want to step on their throat when they're down because of how long they did it to us. And it stinks when you throw away one of those opportunities, but you know what? They have to come to Anfield in the second half of the season. Hopefully we can do something extremely humbling to them. That's really as far as I can go with this, because quite frankly, I don't really want to see them again. I don't want to see them more than one other time this season.
Yeah, absolutely right. Okay, well, unfortunately, Sandeep we're having some issues, but he did send in his question, Justin, and I guess we can talk about it. Again, this pod is a little bit erratic. It's a little bit everywhere. And his question is, what were the midfield roles? Because one thing I kind of noticed was, and which is quite scary, was the fact that we were actually not winning the midfield battle at all. I felt like, Henderson, although he plays the better six, I think we'll agree on that. I don't think he did a great job in terms of screening the defence. I thought Bruno Fernandes completely ran the show. I thought James Milner was really, really leggy and like sluggish. It was almost like he had lead in his boots. Not quick, like he said, just a straight running, just, like almost like trying to run into brick walls. There wasn't, I don't know, it felt like there wasn't much thought in terms of passage of play or overlapping runs. There was nothing like a smart, cute pass. There was nothing really going on, just like sort of run and drill. And Henderson, you kind of touched on his passing ability today. I don't think it was overly great. I think, in the first half, I think it was, he did try switching up, trying to do the switch of play, trying to get it to Robbo and things. But there just wasn't much going on with the midfield. And there wasn't much screening and protecting as well.
Do you think that there was any point in today's game where you could say that our midfield was able to be compact and then expand? Because to me, it just seemed like they were all very far from each other at all times. And the only one who really offered anything was Elliott, who still just got isolated every place. And I think Harvey wasn't helped by the fact that Henderson wasn't particularly good at doing any sort of screening. Like, if you were asking what their roles were, I would probably say it looked like Bobby was playing the 6 and Henderson was playing the 10, which is not how you draw that up.
Yeah.
But
I actually watched at one point in the first half, and there was a few meters between Henderson and Firmino. I'm not even lying.
And that shouldn't be. The way you want that set up to structured is you want Milner and Elliott to be between the two of them, so that you can actually have your forwards picking up the ball in forward positions. The only one of our forwards who got the ball in anything resembling a forward position was Salah, and it took so long to get him the ball that that United could just collapse on him, and he was rendered relatively ineffective. I think that the midfield plan was just disastrous, and you do need players who know how to actually combine with each other and pass through traps instead of just passing into traps, which is what we did.
Yeah.
It was just ugly. I think the midfield needs to be reassessed with the idea, first off, of going into the transfer market, because it's clear we're short bodies. And then also it needs to be reassessed as far as actually playing personnel combinations and that work, and players who play in their right positions. Like, you can play Henderson and Elliott at the 6-8 combo, but then you need someone who does more who has more mobility, who can connect defense to attack with them, right? Like, you could probably get away with Thiago, Henderson, and Elliott in a game, or Thiago or Henderson, Keita, and Elliott in a game where we have a lot of the ball, because of the fact that you're going to get a lot of activity out of Elliott and Naby in front of Henderson. You can't play James Milner there. You can't do that. He is not dynamic enough either with the ball or out of possession to give you anything in that situation. Like, it's basically bringing a player in who, instead of allowing for him to complement the best features of the other two players he plays with, highlights the worst features in them. Like, Henderson and Fabinho do the same thing when they play together too, because neither one of them is particularly mobile, and they want to cover the same ground. Like, it's as much about individual talents as it is about what kind of system you want to play, and how do the players you're playing in that system complement each other in their roles. Today, it didn't feel like it felt like the destabilization of Henderson and Milner made it so that you, regardless of what either one of them does well, you were bringing out the worst in both.
Yeah, and I've just pulled up some stats. I've not got the stats from the first half, because obviously that is something we need to look at. But Sky was saying that Liverpool had something like 70% ball possession in the first half. But I was like, but what the fuck are you doing with it? Do you know what I mean? Like, that stat right now means absolutely nothing. We were a goal down, and the goal actually happened within 15 minutes, Justin, which is a recurring trend and theme for Liverpool now, where they seem to keep going behind. But, they did have a bit of a warning. I think it was around about 9 minutes. I thought, Elanga was having so much joy on the right-hand side against Trent. He beat Sally. It was so easy, but he clipped the post. Really, like, that was the first warning sign, right? At 9 minutes, the way they kind of just played this these quick through balls through our defense, to just zip it really quick. Like, that did not look like a team that lost 4-0 against Brentford. But, here they were zipping it. They had some passion. They had, they had more about them. Liverpool just did not look cohesive at all. And, so that happened at 9 minutes. In 15 minutes, Sancho gets his goal, and let's talk about that, because I was absolutely bemused by the fact that he was allowed so many touches in the box before he actually took his shot.
So,
and Milner just slides across it was just a chaotic mess in terms of shape.
Let's replay every single thing that happens in that goal. Henderson charges out of position to press the wrong player. Trent is so far out of position that he can get nowhere near the right back area that the ball's cut into before being passed to Sancho. Milner gets turned around and dives in way too early to give Milner to give Sancho an open shot, and then Virgil van Dijk decided that he wanted to have a cigarette and wait for it to happen. Like legit, it's a bad team goal caused by a chain reaction of events that are just unacceptable at this particular level against this particular team. Right? Manchester United cannot hurt you unless you give them all the time in the world because they simply don't have a coherent team structure. If you give any team an easy pass to basically the penalty area and then give the player 5 seconds to play with the ball and shoot it, he's going to score.
Yeah.
It was just bad. Just so bad.
Yeah, and one thing that kind of really bothered me about that whole first 20 minutes was the fact that, obviously the crowd were up for it, and the longer that game went on, United would have been more and more settled. And for me, the thing that I kind of noticed was, and we didn't do this, was, we didn't really press their defense enough, and, we didn't get stuck into them, and, those kind of things really, really helped, because that's where they kind of wobbled against Brentford, and, even Brighton made their life really, really difficult. And, I just felt like we didn't expose their weaknesses. And then obviously, so that goal happened in 15 minutes, and then there was absolutely nothing happening from Liverpool, and then Diaz tried to copy and paste his goal from Crystal Palace last week. But for me, there was just, in that moment, I felt like we couldn't string a pass together. It was just all disorientated. We looked shell-shocked. So, it was just a real horrible mess. I mean, Justin, what did you make of the first 20 minutes? Just from watching it and just the analysis side of things?
It was just, we were so slow out of the traps. I don't understand how this continues to be an issue. You have to play 90 minutes. If you're gonna have a period of time where you're actually gonna slow up in a game, do it in the last 20 when you're already up several goals, right? That's how we used to play. That's how we've won a lot of games. We're not doing that lately. There's something about the way in which we're starting where it's just we don't seem to we either just seem to huff and puff but don't score, or we seem to not assert ourselves until we get hit. And neither of those are particularly durable ways to win football games. You're not gonna. It's a low-scoring sport. You're not typically going to win if you're allowing the first goal in every single game, especially considering the fact that, as much as we don't want to sit there and talk about it, the reason that low block defenses work in the Premier League is because most Premier League defenders are actually quite good, and you can't let Premier League defenders just sit in. Now, that's not what happened today. United continued to attack us, gave us plenty of opportunities, and we just did nothing with them because of the fact that we were edgeless, toothless, whatever words you want to use, but the first 20 was just time after time again of them breaking through us. Elanga should have scored right before Sancho scored.
Yeah.
And they cut through our midfield at will.
Yeah.
Every single person who melted down for an hour before that game on Twitter or in Discord or wherever they were melting down with the lineup was 100% correct. And they got proven correct very quickly, and it sucks because I wanted that to be wrong.
Yeah. I thought those days of people having meltdowns over the lineup were long gone, but I think there is real cause for concern. And I think that
they're back.
They're back, yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The worst thing was, obviously, you're watching that game and you're like, oh gosh, and then you're thinking, okay, well, what can Klopp do? And you know what? The sad thing was, Justin, was the fact that maybe just looking at that bench, Klopp all he had maybe 2 realistic options to do, and 3 evidently in Tsimikas. But it was the likes of, oh God, Fabinho has to come on, he must come on, and obviously we'll talk about that as he does come on in the second half. But you're looking at that bench, you're 1-0 down, clearly, if he had a full healthy team and a strong bench, he's in a situation where he can change things up really, really quick. And you're looking at that bench and you're like, well, there's no way on earth Bobby does a full game, full 95 minutes with that kind of performance. But here we are, it is what it is. I mean, I thought Liverpool then did get some, they did try. I felt like they were trying to, create some kind of fluidity in their passing. They were trying to, create some connection. I thought Robbo and Diaz had a moment. I think it was around about 37 minutes. they were trying to link up. But for me, the most outstanding part of like that first half in terms of Liverpool's chances was, I kind of talked about it earlier on in the pod, was around about 41 minutes where I think it was a corner to Liverpool, Milner drills it in, and both Martinez and Fernandez were diddly-daddling with it. And if there was somebody in there, like, would have, somebody who was quick to react, Roberto Firmino just was not quick enough to react, in them two having a brain fart moment, it's one apiece.
Yeah,
I just felt like mentally we were not there. Forget physically, mentally we were slow. I felt like some of the passing from Gomez was awful today. Trent, was having an absolute nightmare on the right. I thought, United were attacking our right-hand side of the defence, which so many teams do. And, that
Trent was so bad today. Trent's had a very poor start to the season.
Mm.
He looks like he put on too much muscle and sacrificed mobility. Now, this could just be me, making comments, but he's looked a step slow. I think it's a fair comment to ask, are we still paying the price for last season right now? Like, it feels like we are. But it feels like, we are running in cement, and I think it might be, did we, are we dealing with the mental fatigue from last season? Are we dealing with physical fatigue from last season? Is it something completely different? I also am going to interject a particular comment from a certain German fella. We should have won this game. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's how I saw it. Very Panglossian, but frankly incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. As much as we love Jurgen Klopp, I don't know what game you were watching. I don't.
Did you have any individual bright spots?
You know what? No, I would probably only say the only player that showed up and he pretty much lasted the full 90 was probably Harvey Elliott. And I thought when Carvalho came on, you've touched on this as well. I thought he really made a difference in the second half.
He did.
But so that's the first half. So can I just say, I thought Michael Oliver actually had a really, really shocking game. I'm just going to say it. I thought...
Oh, he's terrible.
Yeah, I thought, Trent was lucky to not get a booking there on roundabout, I think it was about 6 minutes. But Dalot was awful with Diaz this game a fair few times. And he just didn't do anything. And we'll get to the Bruno Fernandes time-wasting thing as obviously when we get into the second half. But I thought he absolutely bottled it. I understand where he wanted to maybe keep it a bit disciplined and maybe didn't want to give early bookings, let the game free flow. But I feel like, we're not really consistent with what we're trying to do here. So Justin, let's move on to the second half. I mean, have you got any takeaways from the first half?
No, I was hoping for the halftime whistle to be blown on 25 minutes.
Okay, let's move on to the second half. And I thought Liverpool started off really bright. I thought, yes, Klopp has probably put a rocket up their arse, but lo and behold, 52 minutes, Rashford on the counter. I mean, let's talk about the errors and the lead up to the goal, because again, so fucking easy. But again, I'm really, really pissed off because for me, that goal, I don't know how they mark these goals as onside and offside, because I don't know what line they're using. For me, as soon as he went off, I was like, he's off there. And they did check it on VAR and it stood. So I'm just a bit like, okay, what the fuck?
Yeah. The angle you're looking at wasn't a straight on angle, so it's tough to tell. I mean, but the worst part about that goal is just Henderson. I mentioned it earlier, people said great assist, Hendo, but he plays Rashford in. The only time I'd be happy with the pass, with the back pass like that plays a guy in, was when Gerrard passed the ball to Didier Drogba to deny United a title in 2010. That's the last time playing a back pass like that in, just fucking whack it out of play. It's just a horrific pass from Henderson. And it's a, you know what? It's a game-losing act, right? Is Henderson solely to blame for this particular loss? No. Is he highly culpable? Absolutely. You can't pass a ball like that backwards when your last man is basically parallel to you. That is a suicidal pass. And it hurt us. It probably killed us.
It was horrendous. And you know what? He didn't last much long after that. And I think Klopp probably started seeing the writing on the wall as well. And then, obviously, 58 minutes, Hendo comes off, Fab comes on. I have no idea why Fab did not start this game. You literally are away from home. You put on your best, defensive midfielder. But, Fab came on. And, I felt like he was just doing a better job at, like, sort of screening the defence. And you know what? I think he might have had the first, he forced a save out of De Gea on 66 minutes, which was probably the first. Am I right? First on target?
It was. I think it was our... No, the first shot on target was Diaz in the first half on that quick flick.
Oh, yes. Okay, but forces a save out of De Gea.
Yeah, well, I don't get why it took Klopp so long to make changes. When you see that something is clearly going wrong, at some point you have to realize the players aren't going to play themselves out of it, right? Like, sometimes you have to... Recognizing when your players are going to raise their game and play themselves out of it versus recognizing when they need a change is the hardest thing to do in management, in-game management in football. But there's a reason that, these guys are as much as they are. It's because you want the best guy making those decisions. And Klopp just thought that he left Milner on for 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Left James Milner on for 70 minutes. 36-year-old James Milner for 70 minutes is not going to do it for you. He's a guy who should be playing 30-minute intervals. So, yeah, I think he just really missed those changes. We had 2 shots on target through 63 minutes against a bad defense. And then we actually had a significantly high corner count. You have Virgil van Dijk, who's an elite header of the ball, but we just couldn't get any delivery into a spot where it threatened them. And this wasn't a particularly big United team. They were all pretty small. Like, we didn't, in any of the spots where we could physically impose ourselves, we didn't. And that's really it. They didn't hide from the fight, and we hid from the fight. I am also going to take a moment to notice one thing, right? There have been multiple comments into the chat box and into the chat box and the live Discord asking why we're not talking about the midfield. What podcast are you doing? We've been slamming it last hour.
We started with the real rough. We have been speaking about it, guys. Yeah, well, there you go. Now you have to listen to the entire show if you joined us late.
Yeah, like, we haven't been kind to the midfield here. They were terrible.
So bad. So bad. Spoiler alert.
Structurally, physically, they did everything you don't want a midfield to do in a football game. We pulled a goal back, though. That was nice.
That was nice. And you know what? Before that happened, obviously, like you said, Carvalho came on, made a difference, 72 minutes. So he comes on at 72 minutes. Before that, I think Carvalho, it was on the 81st minute, wasn't it? Elliot ball in, Carvalho takes a shot, keeper saves it, and it kind of falls into the path of Mosolani, heads it home, near post. Thank you very much.
Mo Salah's the best in anticipating around and finishing it, and it's a good way to get goals. You know what also creates those opportunities? Actually shooting the ball on net. Like, I don't think we shoot enough. Sometimes I think we take a lot of pot shots, but I don't think we actually try to work into good shooting situations and just hope that, you might see bounces, deflections, and chaos. We did that today once where we got bounces, deflections, and chaos, and it went in. Otherwise, I feel like we're trying to score worldies every single time, and that's harder to come by.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of the shooting today was quite aimless. Certainly the first half, just hoof the ball and stuff. Yeah, I felt that as well. Really, really toothless up front. And I think that didn't really help me, Justin, because where I watched on Sky Sports, they kept panning the camera to Nunez, who was in the stands watching with Thiago. And I was like, you could have been feasting tonight.
Yeah, he could have been. I mean, we didn't test the fact that they have a 5'9" center back who's been getting destroyed by Premier League forwards for the first 2 weeks of his career in the Premier League. We didn't put him under any pressure. We made him look like he was an actual Premier League center back.
And you know what? And that's going to grow his confidence. And, that pisses me off because, you kind of want to rattle them as much as possible. So Mo Salah gets his goal as Mo Salah would. But it was the aftermath for me, and Bruno, of course, already on a yellow for his dive against Robbo earlier on in the half, but he grabs the ball, doesn't give the ball to Mo Salah. Mo Salah wants to kick on with the game. Naturally, there's 9 minutes of normal time to play, and he's holding on to the ball. I think Roberto Firmino's pretty much had enough of him as well, trying to take the ball off him, but he's being a little, spoilt little kid. And it's all in the eyes, all in the view, in Michael Oliver's eyesight, and he doesn't book him. Because I'm sorry, that for me, I thought Oliver bottled it there.
Oh,
if referees are going to clamp down on time wasting, then do it.
Oliver was a coward. I think that ultimately the problem here with refereeing throughout this league is that they're all bad. They're all consistently bad. It feels like they're corrupt, but in reality, they make the same level of basically shitty calls for most teams. And you only notice when it affects a team that's directly competing with you for some sort of position, be it, the title or to avoid relegation of the top four. Because the standard of refereeing in this league is just fucking dog shit. And Michael Oliver wasn't good, but if I'm looking for reasons to, complain in this game, I would just point out as a footnote that Michael Oliver was really bad, but refereeing had no actual bearing on the outcome of this game. But taking Bruno Fernandes off would have basically been them playing for 10 men for about for about 10 minutes, whereas we looked like we played with 10 men or 9 men in the first half for a long time. So it's very, very, very much keyed in on what you've done, right? We were dog shit. The referee was dog shit. The entire day was dog shit. I hope to forget about it relatively quickly, but fear that I won't.
I don't think there's anything more notable to say after that point. I felt like, we had a lot of possession. I felt like, in the second half, the ball was all in their half and we were trying to do stuff. But I just felt like they were just sort of defending, as you'd expect them to. And, it was almost like, the final ball wasn't quite happening. I think on the 84th minute, I think Klopp makes his final change. Robbo comes off, Costas Tsimikas comes on. But I think there was 5 minutes of injury time, but I don't know. I just didn't, even though we had all that possession and, like you said, we had a lot of set pieces, a lot of corners were coming our way. It just, for me, didn't feel like it was an equaliser was going to come. That's how I felt watching the game. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
I didn't feel like there was any chance of us scoring. They had time. They figured out that they did all the cynical stuff that we don't do from time wasting at all when we have leads. And I think I'm a little bit tired of us being too nice. If we come out of this season and win no trophies besides the Fair Play Trophy and the Community Shield, got to say that that's a failure. And at least I'll say this: at least when Darwin got sent off for his red card, he showed some fight. Showed significantly more fight than any of our veteran leaders.
Is that today. A good thing, though? Is that good? Because I need to, of course.
No, it's stupid.
I'm not being funny.
I'm grasping for straws. We have 2 points with 9 available.
Yeah, I mean, I know people love a fight, but I'm actually sat here now even more angry at what Nunes did because, my God, did we need him today? And we're without him for 3 games. And can you imagine, I like a fight. I love a fight. But I like a fight where you're not a hothead and you might get sent off, especially where Liverpool are right now. We don't have the luxuries of where we are right now in terms of how, crippled we are with injuries. I was looking at that injury.
This game, we might have won because of how much he stretches the other team's back line backwards.
Yeah, I'm not being funny.
His red card in that game is definitely one of the factors that basically play against Palace. Is one of the factors that probably plays into us potentially merely drawing that game instead of potentially winning it, coming out here and potentially winning it. It's a maneuver that could have cost us 5 points, right? That's how I have to look at it. On the other hand, you know what? at least there was at least a passion towards doing something. Granted, it was the wrong thing. Whereas in this game, you had a bunch of players who looked totally disinterested in anything resembling actually competing with another set of athletes. Like, what's worse? Doing something really dumb because you're fired up, or showing no passion?
I think they're both equally as bad because they're both detrimental.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Justin.
But you'll take the one that at least demonstrates some element of, care, because at the very least, you know that like it was done because the player actually gives a shit about competing.
Yeah, I see the logic in that, but yeah, in terms of
outcome, I'm arguing like what's the worst thing of two bad outcomes, and the answer is probably still going to be Darwin's red card in the long term, because we still don't have him now for Bournemouth and a Newcastle game that, quite frankly, I'm going to be talking to you about next week because I'm on with you then too. That really looks like we're going to go into that as underdogs.
Yep, I think we all watched them, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Both of them are at Anfield, but you know what? That's not a team that seems like they're particularly scared of us. We need to get Klopp needs to make tougher decisions. We need to get players healthy again, and we also probably need to get someone in who, quite frankly, we're not relying on for 2 or 3 months of betting in time. But we need somebody who can hit the ground running now, because quite frankly, if you were actually going to sit there and say that Milner and Henderson today looked like they were, widely skilled and employed in our pressing structure, then you'd be like, is this the first time they've ever actually played this system? Because it doesn't look coherent right now.
No, it really, really doesn't. And I know social media can be a bit of a cesspit. And, you have Klopp knows better than you. You get those people as well. Then you get the people who get, knee-jerky about everything and who get angry about everything, the FSG out brigade and things. But I think after watching that, I hope we are all, together in realizing that we actually do need to buy a midfielder. And I hope Klopp's eyes are up. I hope they're doing something. There's no way on earth he can sleep a peaceful night knowing that is his midfield. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe it.
He's not stupid. He might just be too stubborn for his own good sometimes. More often than not, he's been wildly successful and gets it right. But you know what? When he's been getting this wrong, he's gotten this one way wrong. And I'm going to give you another quote. Klopp on Keita. It happened yesterday. We need further assessment. It doesn't look like he'll be in training tomorrow. If it's actually true that Naby Keita got injured before this match, right? Then, and it's not just, taking him out of the line of fire because of things that are happening between his agent and the club, then guess what? You still need to go out and find, that's another midfielder down, right? And you can't, you're going to throw away a season if you do this.
Let's talk about this Naby Keita situation. Like you said, there's two ways of it. Either he's hiding him from, obviously, the scrutiny, or he is genuinely injured, which is highly likely given his track record. I think, again, we can all agree, regardless of how you feel about this player, whether you rate him or you don't, I rate him. I know you do as well, Justin, but I think we can all agree that we can't rely on him. You just can't.
Yeah, you can't. We can't. And you know what it is? Also, every single time we talk about Keita, somebody brings up Henderson. And it gets boring because of the fact that Henderson's been an established Liverpool player for a long time, which is why he's probably got a bit more fondness from the fan base. But the whole point is, you can't have one guy who's run himself into the ground and probably is on his last legs, and the other salve and the point that comes against that, or player that's used as the kind of the why doesn't this guy get playing time over him, is a guy who you legitimately don't know if he's going to be able to complete 15 minutes of a match because he might get hurt. That's a bad problem to be in. Right, I've been a bit cavalier about the need for not having a midfielder. You know what? I'm pretty wrong about that. We should buy a midfielder, and we should buy one that actually stays healthy.
Agreed, and that is probably the best approach to have, right? Hold up your hands sometimes and you're like, you know what? Actually, no, this is a big problem, and it demonstrated it today because the fact that it got outworked and outrun in this against this Man United team is actually pretty horrendous. Like, they were there for the taking. And they were horrendous. They were absolutely bad.
And I just, it sucks. Really don't want to lose to this team, ever. Because we're about to hear a week of United are back from the media too, right?
You know what gets me?
In crisis, United are back.
Yeah. You know what pisses me off, Justin? Like, obviously, and the majority of people listening to this and just people just joining us on Discord, but, we've been Liverpool supporters for quite some time. And, and I'll speak about me on a personal note, like, when I support Liverpool, when Liverpool were very, very bad and United were very, very good. And losing to Man United always hurt. But we used to lose to a good team. It's worse when you lose to a United team that is fucking shit.
Oh, it's absolutely worse. And Nina, you put in a lot of effort doing these podcasts every single week. For those who don't know, I run an official supporters club, one of the largest ones in North America and the oldest one in North America. I put a lot of work into this because I love this, right?
Yes.
And putting work into just being a part of this ecosystem and supporter ecosystem because you love it, and then having to watch your team lose like this to their biggest rival, it is extremely painful. I hate it. I hate losing to United, and I hate losing to United when it looks like we were when we didn't even show up. I will take Mascherano getting sent off over this.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to the fact at least he gave a shit. Like, the biggest problem tonight is just, I keep coming back to this, the lack of effort. Gags raised the point about the fact that Milner and Van Dijk are going at it on the pitch. That looks bad. Like, just if I could rescind a game to the annals of history where I'll never look it up, this is the one. I hope this fires us forward rather than becomes a sign for things to come this season, because I'm going to watch all of these games, and I don't want to have to do it in a situation where they're just causing me constant pain.
Yes, agreed. I hope that is the rocket up everyone's arse that they actually needed. Maybe this was it, like, being embarrassed by a really, really shit United team was what they needed. I mean, for me, like, the slow start all this season has been giving me the COVID football season vibes, I can't lie. When, pretty much in the first 10 minutes, I knew exactly what kind of game or what kind of performance I was going to get just by the first 10 minutes. And you know what? Lo and behold, I was pretty much always correct, because it was not a great season. So, and again, loads of injuries that season as well. So we'll have to wait and see. Justin, any final thoughts from you on this game in general? Anything you want to kind of get off your chest before we call it a night?
As far as the top four race goes, there's plenty of time for that to shake out. You're never as bad as you are when you think you're at your worst, and you're never as good as you are when you think you're at your best. So hopefully, again, they get this fixed, they get it righted quickly, and we reel off one of those long streaks of wins that we know this team has done in the past and might still be capable of.
Wonderful stuff. Let's hope you're right, Justin. I mean, right now I'm very deflated. I can't lie. Right, guys, that is the end of the Nina Kauser Show. A massive thank you to our two callers, Tyrone and Kieran. Really, really appreciated your input. Everyone that joined us live on Discord, we have like pretty much a full house, which is pretty awesome. Loads of people joining and being interactive. Really, really appreciate your input and your chat as well. Justin, before I let you go, where can people find you on social media? And
you can find me. Yeah, you can find me at Rolls on Shabbos. You can also follow LFCNY if you're ever in the New York City area and want to come watch a match. You can find us at the 11th Street Bar and a variety of other bars. And as always, try to take care of other people. Food banks are unfortunately a regular world, and until we can eradicate poverty, let's at least do what we can to help out our fellow man.
Wonderful stuff, Justin, and best of luck to that. And I know you guys are doing a wonderful job, as there's so many supporters clubs, just globally as well. Do help out those who are less fortunate than ourselves. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this Nina Kauser Show. I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy watching that game, let's be honest, but thank you for sticking around. We hope you feel better after that. For my part, Champions League football's I think the draw's going to happen soon. So I might be doing a podcast with Themis on that, getting a reaction. Also, if you're on Instagram, I do little videos there, so you can go and follow at the Nina Kauser Show. Would really help. Would really appreciate you sort of following that page. But guys, thank you so much for listening, and take care. Chins up. Until next time, up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.